The cathedral was silent except for the whisper of expensive fabric and the quiet breathing of 300 guests. Ethan Blackwood stood at the altar in his black tuxedo, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the massive wooden doors at the end of the aisle. His heart was empty. Not nervous, not excited, just hollow. He was about to marry a woman whose face he had never seen, whose voice he had never heard, whose dreams he knew nothing about. His grandfather had made him promise on his deathbed last year. Well, not quite his deathbed, but the old man had clutched his chest and gasped until Ethan agreed. Marry within 2 years or lose everything. The company, the legacy, the Blackwood name. His grandfather said it was about family, about continuing the line, about responsibility. Ethan knew it was about control. The doors opened. A woman in white appeared, her face hidden behind layers of delicate lace. She walked slowly, no father beside her, no one giving her away. Just her, alone, moving toward him like a ghost. Ethan's throat tightened. What kind of woman agrees to marry a stranger? What kind of desperation leads to this moment? The music swelled. She reached the altar. The priest began to speak, but Ethan heard nothing. His eyes were fixed on the veil, on the shadow of a face beneath it. When the priest finally said the words, Ethan reached forward with shaking hands. He lifted the veil. The woman beneath was beautiful. Deep brown skin, large dark eyes that held an ocean of sadness, full lips pressed together like she was holding back tears. She was young, maybe 25, with delicate features and hair pulled back in an elegant style. But it was her eyes that stopped him. They were not cold or calculating. They were kind, and terrified, and resigned to something he could not name. "I do," she whispered when the priest asked. Ethan heard himself say the same words. The ring slid onto her finger. She was trembling. He wanted to ask if she was okay, but the priest was already pronouncing them husband and wife. The guests applauded. She flinched at the sound. They walked down the aisle together, her hand barely touching his arm. In the limousine they sat on opposite ends of the seat. Ethan stared out the window. Renee Carter, his wife, stared at her hands. "Are you all right?" he finally asked. "Yes," she said softly. "Thank you for asking." Her voice was gentle, musical almost. It surprised him. "We don't have to do this," he said. "If you want out, I can arrange something." She looked at him, then really looked at him, and he saw something flicker in her eyes. Hope maybe. Or regret. But then she shook her head. "I made a promise," she said. "I will keep it." "So did I," Ethan replied. "But promises made under pressure are not always fair." "Life is not always fair," Renee said quietly, turning back to the window. "But we do what we must." The reception was a blur of champagne and strangers congratulating them. Renee smiled politely at everyone, but Ethan noticed she never drank, never ate, never relaxed. She was performing, playing a role. So was he. By the time they arrived at his estate that night, exhaustion had settled into his bones. The housekeeper, Mrs. Patel, showed Renee to her room. It was 3 doors down from his. Separate bedrooms, separate lives. That had been the arrangement. Marriage in name only, at least for now. Ethan did not know if he felt relieved or disappointed. He stood in his own room later, loosening his tie, staring at his reflection. A husband. The word felt strange. He had built an empire by the age of 32, controlled billions, commanded respect in every boardroom. But tonight, standing in his empty bedroom, he felt like a fraud. Down the hall, Renee sat on the edge of her bed, still in her wedding dress, and let the tears finally fall. Have you ever made a choice that broke your heart to save someone you love? If this story speaks to you, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the Blackwood estate, casting long rectangles of light across the marble floors. Renee woke in a bed so large she had barely moved during the night. The sheets were soft, the room was beautiful, and she felt completely out of place. She sat up slowly, taking in her surroundings. The bedroom was decorated in creams and pale blues, with elegant furniture that probably cost more than her family's entire house. There was a walk-in closet already filled with clothes, all in her size. Shoes, dresses, casual wear. Everything she could possibly need. Everything except freedom. A soft knock at the door made her jump. "Come in," she called. Mrs. Patel entered with a warm smile, carrying a breakfast tray. "Good morning, Mrs. Blackwood," she said cheerfully. "I thought you might like breakfast in your room today." Mrs. Blackwood. The name sounded wrong. "Thank you," Renee said. "But please call me Renee." "Of course, dear." Mrs. Patel set the tray on a small table by the window. "Mr. Blackwood left for the office early, But he asked me to make sure you had everything you needed. He did. Yes. He seemed quite concerned about your comfort. Renee nodded, not knowing what to say. She picked at the breakfast, fresh fruit and pastries and coffee, but her stomach was tight. After Mrs. Patel left, she dressed in jeans and a simple red blouse from the closet and ventured out into the house. The estate was enormous. Room after room of pristine furniture and expensive art. A library with floor-to-ceiling books. A gym. A home theater. A kitchen bigger than her childhood living room. She wandered slowly, feeling like an intruder. In the kitchen, she found a young woman chopping vegetables. "Oh, hello," the woman said brightly. She had warm brown skin and kind eyes. "You must be Renee. I am Priya, the cook." "Nice to meet you," Renee said. "Would you like some tea? I just made a fresh pot." "I would love some, thank you." They sat together at the kitchen island, and Priya chatted easily about the house, the staff, the neighborhood. Renee felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. Priya did not treat her like a stranger or a curiosity. She treated her like a person. "How long have you worked here?" Renee asked. 5 years now. Mr. Blackwood is a good employer. Quiet, keeps to himself mostly but fair. Always remembers birthdays, always pays on time. You could do worse. Renee smiled faintly. That is good to know. He is not cruel if that is what you are worried about, Priya said gently. He is just lonely, I think. The word surprised Renee. Lonely. A billionaire surrounded by staff and business partners and family, lonely. But then she supposed loneliness did not care about money. That evening Ethan returned home just before dinner. Renee was in the library, curled up in a chair with a book she had found on the shelves. She heard his footsteps in the hallway and looked up as he appeared in the doorway. "Hi," he said. "Hi," she replied. "I hope you found everything you needed today." "Yes, thank you. Everyone has been very kind." He nodded, shifting his weight slightly. He still wore his suit, though he had loosened his tie. He looked tired. "Dinner will be ready soon," he said. "Will you join me?" "Of course." They ate in the formal dining room, a long table set with fine china and crystal. Renee sat at one end, Ethan at the other. The distance felt symbolic. Priya served roasted chicken, vegetables, and potatoes. The food was delicious, but Renee could barely taste it. "How was your day?" she asked, trying to fill the silence. "Busy. Board meeting, contract negotiations. The usual." "What does your company do?" "Real estate development, mostly. Some tech investments. My grandfather started it 50 years ago. And now you run it?" "Yes." "That must be a lot of pressure." He looked at her, and for a moment she saw something soften in his expression. "It is," he admitted. "But I am used to it." "Do you enjoy it?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. He set down his fork and considered. "I do not know," he said honestly. "I have been doing it so long, I have never stopped to think about whether I enjoy it." "What would you do if you could do anything?" He smiled slightly, a rare crack in his serious demeanor. "I used to want to be an architect. Design buildings, create spaces. But my grandfather needed me in the business." "It is not too late," Renee said softly. "Maybe not." He paused. "What about you? What do you want to do?" Renee hesitated. Talking about her dreams felt dangerous, like opening a door she had worked hard to keep closed. "I wanted to be a teacher," she said finally. "Work with kids, help them learn." "Wanted?" Past tense. Life got in the way. Ethan did not push, and she was grateful. They finished the meal in silence, but it felt slightly less heavy than before. Over the next few days they fell into a routine. Ethan left early for work, came home late. Renee explored the estate, read books, and spent time with the staff. They shared dinner each evening, making small talk that gradually became easier. But there was always a wall between them, an unspoken understanding that this was temporary, transactional. One week after the wedding, Ethan's cousin Vincent came to visit. Renee was in the garden when she heard voices in the study. She walked back toward the house and paused when she heard her name. "So you actually went through with it?" Vincent was saying. His voice was smooth, amused. "Married a complete stranger." "It was necessary," Ethan replied coolly. "Is she at least pretty?" "That is not relevant." "Come on, cousin. You must have some opinion. Or are you really going to keep her at arm's length forever?" "My relationship with my wife is none of your business." "Your wife?" Vincent laughed. "You sound so serious. Does she even know why you married her?" "She knows enough." Renee slipped away before she could hear more. Her heart was pounding. Vincent's tone had been mocking, dismissive. She had felt his eyes on her during the wedding reception, assessing her like she was a piece of furniture. She did not trust him. That night at dinner she asked Ethan about Vincent. "He is my cousin," Ethan said. "Works in the company, handles some of the international accounts. Do you trust him?" The question made Ethan pause, his fork halfway to his mouth. "Why do you ask?" "Just a feeling." Ethan studied her for a long moment. "Trust is earned," he said carefully. "Vincent is family, but that does not mean I tell him everything." Renee nodded, filing the information away. She had learned early in life to trust her instincts about people. And her instincts said Vincent was trouble. 2 weeks into the marriage, Renee received a call from her mother. She took it in her room, sitting on the edge of the bed. "How is Tyler?" she asked immediately. "The same," her mother said, her voice weary. "The doctors say we need to move forward with the transplant soon. Mr. Blackwood's grandfather promised to cover everything. Has the hospital received the payment?" "Yes, it came through yesterday." "Renee, I do not know how to thank you." "You do not have to thank me, Mama. Just take care of Tyler." "Are you okay? Is he treating you well?" Renee thought about Ethan. His quiet presence, his careful distance, his sad eyes. "Yes," she said. "He is kind. I am so sorry you had to do this. I would do it 100 times over for Tyler. You know that." After the call ended, Renee sat in the dimming light, thinking about her little brother. He was only 16, his whole life ahead of him. When he had gotten sick 2 years ago, the medical bills had swallowed their family whole. Her father had worked 3 jobs and still they could not keep up. Then Ethan's grandfather had appeared with an offer that seemed too good to be true. Marry Ethan Blackwood. Stay married for at least 2 years. In exchange, all of Tyler's medical expenses would be covered. The best doctors, the best treatment, everything. Her family would never have to worry about money again. It was not a choice. Not really. It was survival. Renee wiped her eyes and stood. She had made her decision. She would see it through. That night, she and Ethan sat in the living room after dinner. He was reading reports, she was sketching in a notebook she had found. They existed in the same space but separate worlds. "Can I ask you something?" Renee said suddenly. Ethan looked up. "Of course. Why did you agree to this? The marriage. You could have said no." He set down his papers and leaned back in his chair. "My grandfather is not a man who accepts no," he said. "He built this company from nothing and he believes the only way to preserve it is through family. He thinks I need a wife, stability, someone to carry on the name. But what do you think?" "I think." Ethan paused, choosing his words carefully. "I think he is afraid. Afraid of losing control, afraid of being forgotten. And I think he used that fear to manipulate both of us." The honesty surprised Renee. "Do you resent me?" she asked quietly. "No." His answer was immediate. "I resent the situation. But not you." "I resent it too," she admitted. "But I understand why it had to happen." They looked at each other across the room, 2 people trapped in a cage neither of them had built. "Maybe we can make the best of it," Ethan said. "Maybe," Renee agreed. It was not love. It was not even friendship yet. But it was the first honest moment they had shared and it felt like a beginning. The days began to blur together. Renee woke each morning to sunlight streaming through her windows, ate breakfast alone, and spent her time exploring the vast estate. She discovered a greenhouse filled with orchids, a tennis court she did not know how to use, and a garage housing 6 expensive cars. Everything was beautiful and perfect and hollow. Ethan remained polite but distant. They spoke at dinner about safe topics. The weather. Books. Current events. Never about feelings, never about the strange arrangement that bound them together. He asked her once if she needed anything and she said no, because what she needed could not be bought. Mrs. Patel became her lifeline. The housekeeper was in her 50s, with graying hair and laugh lines around her eyes. She had worked for the Blackwood family for over 20 years and seemed to understand without being told that Renee was lonely. "Come," Mrs. Patel said one morning, finding Renee wandering the halls. "Help me in the garden. These hands need something to do." They spent the afternoon planting flowers, their fingers in the dirt, the sun warm on their backs. Mrs. Patel talked about her own children, grown now with families of their own. She asked Renee about her life before, and Renee found herself opening up in a way she had not expected. "I grew up in a small house," Renee said, patting soil around a rosebush. 4 of us in 3 bedrooms. My parents worked hard but there was never enough. When Tyler got sick, everything fell apart." "Your brother?" "Yes. Leukemia. He is only 16. Mrs. Patel's face softened with sympathy. That is why you are here. Was not a question. Renee nodded. Mr. Blackwood's grandfather made an offer we could not refuse. This marriage in exchange for Tyler's treatment. And Mr. Blackwood knows this? I do not know what he knows. We do not really talk. Mrs. Patel sat back on her heels, studying Renee with thoughtful eyes. He is a good man, she said gently. Closed off, yes. Serious. But good. His grandfather raised him to be hard, to never show weakness. But I have seen glimpses of who he could be if he let himself. I am not here to change him, Renee said. I am just here to keep my promise. Sometimes people change without meaning to, Mrs. Patel replied. You should give him a chance. And give yourself one too. That evening Renee decided to make an effort. She dressed carefully in a blue sundress and went downstairs early, asking Priya if she could help with dinner. Priya looked delighted and put her to work chopping vegetables. When Ethan came home, he found them laughing in the kitchen, flour on Renee's cheek from the bread they were making. You cook? He asked, surprised. When I get the chance, Renee said, wiping her hands on a towel. I hope you do not mind. Not at all. It smells amazing. Dinner that night felt different. They ate in the smaller breakfast nook instead of the formal dining room. The pasta Renee had helped make was simple but delicious. Ethan asked about her day and she told him about the garden, about Mrs. Patel's stories. He listened, really listened, and Renee saw his shoulders relax slightly. I never use most of this house, he admitted. It feels too big for one person. 2 people now, Renee said. Yes, 2 people. He smiled faintly. Maybe you can help me figure out what to do with all this space. You could host dinners. Invite people over. I do not have many friends. Why not? Ethan considered the question. I suppose I never had time. Or maybe I never trusted people enough to let them close. That sounds lonely. It is. The admission hung in the air between them. Renee reached across the table and touched his hand briefly, a gesture of comfort. Ethan looked startled but did not pull away. You do not have to be lonely, she said softly. Not anymore. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the armor he wore so carefully. But before he could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and sighed. I have to take this. Work. Of course. He stood and left the room, and Renee sat alone with the remains of their dinner, wondering if she had pushed too hard. The next day Vincent showed up unannounced. Renee was in the library when she heard the front door open and Vincent's voice echoing through the foyer. Is my dear cousin home? Mr. Blackwood is at the office, Mrs. Patel replied coolly. What about his lovely wife? Renee stood and walked to the doorway. Vincent was tall, with slicked-back dark hair and a smile that did not reach his eyes. He wore an expensive suit and carried himself with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. Hello, Vincent, Renee said. His eyes swept over her, appraising. Renee, you look well. Marriage suits you. Thank you. I thought I would stop by, see how you are settling in. Ethan can be so busy with work, I worried you might be lonely. I am fine, thank you. This house is awfully big for just the 2 of you. Do you ever feel like a guest in your own home? The question had a sharp edge to it. Renee kept her expression neutral. I feel welcome here, she said. Everyone has been very kind. Of course, of course. Vincent moved into the library, picking up a book and examining it without real interest. Tell me, Renee, what did you do before you married my cousin? I worked at a community center. Taught reading to kids. How noble. And now here you are, living in luxury. Quite the change. Yes, it is. You must be very grateful. There it was. The insinuation. Renee met his eyes directly. I am grateful for many things, she said. But I earned my place here just like anyone else. Vincent's smile sharpened. I am sure you did. Mrs. Patel appeared in the doorway. Mr. Sterling, can I offer you some tea before you go? The dismissal was polite but firm. Vincent laughed. No, thank you, Mrs. Patel. I have other appointments. Renee, it was lovely to see you. I am sure we will be seeing much more of each other. After he left, Mrs. Patel shook her head. That man is trouble. Always has been. I got that impression, Renee said. Be careful around him. He smiles but his eyes are cold. Renee thought about Vincent's questions, the way he had looked at her like she was an intruder. She wondered what he had to gain by making her uncomfortable. Whatever it was, she would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her rattled. That night she told Ethan about the visit. What did he want? Ethan asked, his jaw tightening. Just to check in, he said. But it felt like he was testing me. Testing you how? asking about my past, making comments about the house. Like he was trying to remind me I do not belong here. Ethan's expression darkened. You do belong here. You are my wife. The words were possessive, protective. They surprised both of them. I know Vincent, Ethan continued. He has always been competitive, always wanted what I have. When my grandfather chose me to run the company instead of him, he never forgave me. Do you think he will cause problems? I think he already is. Ethan stood and paced to the window. But I will not let him hurt you. Renee felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was the first time Ethan had shown any real emotion toward her, any indication that he cared about her well-being beyond obligation. Thank you, she said. He turned to look at her, and for a moment they just stared at each other. Then Ethan cleared his throat and looked away. It is late. You should get some rest. So should you. I have some work to finish. Ethan. She stood and walked over to him. When do you ever rest? When the work is done. The work is never done. He smiled sadly. No. I suppose it is not. You should take care of yourself, Renee said. You are allowed to stop sometimes. I will try. But she could see in his eyes that he would not. Work was his escape, his armor, the thing that kept him from having to feel too much. She understood it because she had her own armor. They were both hiding, just in different ways. As Renee walked back to her room that night, she thought about the strange life she had stepped into. A beautiful prison, a kind stranger for a husband, and a cousin who watched her like a predator. She missed her family, missed her old life, but she could not go back. Tyler needed her to stay. And maybe, just maybe, Ethan needed her too. She fell asleep thinking about his hand under hers at dinner, the brief moment of connection. It was not much, but it was something. 3 weeks into the marriage, the routine was set. Breakfast alone, days spent in quiet exploration or reading, evenings with Ethan over dinner. They had moved from the formal dining room to the breakfast nook permanently, a small intimacy neither acknowledged aloud. The conversations were still careful, still surface level, but the silences between them had lost their sharp edges. Renee learned things about Ethan in small increments. He took his coffee black, hated mornings, and had a weakness for chocolate cake. He read the newspaper every day, cover to cover. He played piano sometimes late at night when he thought no one was listening. She had heard it once, passing by the music room, a melancholy melody that made her heart ache. Ethan learned about Renee too. She was an early riser who loved the garden. She hummed when she was content. She had a talent for drawing, filling notebooks with sketches of flowers and buildings and faces. She was kind to everyone from the groundskeeper to the delivery drivers. And she was hiding something that made her sad. One evening, Renee came to dinner with red eyes. She tried to hide it, but Ethan noticed immediately. Are you all right? He asked. Yes, fine. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Renee. She looked up at the sound of her name, spoken gently. Ethan was watching her with concern, not judgment. I spoke to my mother today, she said quietly. Tyler had a bad day. The treatments make him so sick. I am sorry. He is so young. He should be playing basketball with his friends, not lying in a hospital bed. Ethan set down his fork. Is the treatment working? The doctors say it is, but it is hard to watch. He is in pain and I cannot do anything to help. You are doing everything you can. You are here making this sacrifice for him. Renee's eyes filled with tears. Some days I wonder if it is enough. It is more than enough. He is lucky to have a sister like you. The kindness in his voice broke something open inside her. She covered her face with her hands, and the tears came, weeks of holding everything together finally crashing down. She heard Ethan's chair scrape back, felt him kneel beside her. I am sorry, she gasped. I did not mean to fall apart. You are allowed to fall apart, he said softly. You have been so strong. Too strong. He handed her a napkin and she wiped her eyes, embarrassed but also relieved. When she finally looked at him, he was still kneeling there, his expression open in a way she had never seen. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For not making me feel weak. You are not weak. You are one of the strongest people I have ever met. The words settled over her like a blanket. She wanted to believe them. They did not finish dinner. Instead, Ethan suggested they sit in the living room. He made her tea, chamomile with honey, and they sat together on the couch. For the first time, the distance between them felt smaller. Tell me about Tyler, Ethan said. What is he like? Renee smiled, a real smile this time. He is funny. Smart. Loves science and basketball and terrible action movies. Before he got sick, he wanted to be an engineer. He still can be. If he gets better. When he gets better, Ethan corrected. My grandfather may be manipulative, but he keeps his promises. Tyler will get the best care available. Why did your grandfather want this marriage so badly? Renee asked. You could have married anyone. Ethan sighed. He has very specific ideas about legacy. He believes a man without a family is a man without purpose. He wanted me married, settled, producing heirs to carry on the Blackwood name. That is a lot of pressure. My whole life has been pressure. Do well in school. Excel in business. Take over the company. Marry the right woman. He paused. Except I did not marry the right woman according to him. I married a stranger. Do you regret it? Ethan looked at her for a long moment. No. I thought I would, but I do not. Why not? Because you are real. Everyone else in my life wants something from me. Money, status, connections. But you are just here trying to survive, trying to save your brother. There is no pretense with you. Renee felt her breath catch. I want something from you too. Tyler's treatment. That is different. You are not using me. You made a deal and you are honoring it. That is more than most people would do. They sat in silence for a while, sipping tea, the quiet comfortable now instead of awkward. Renee felt exhausted but lighter, like crying had released some of the weight she had been carrying. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything. Do you ever think about what happens after? When the 2 years are up? Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. Sometimes. What do you think will happen? I do not know. My grandfather expects us to stay married, have children, build a life. But that was never part of our agreement. No, it was not. What do you want? Ethan asked. After this is over? Renee thought about it. What did she want? A year ago she would have said freedom. A chance to go back to teaching, to live her own life. But now, sitting here with Ethan, the future felt less clear. I want Tyler to be healthy, she said. I want my family to be okay. Beyond that, I do not know. That is fair. What about you? Ethan smiled faintly. I have spent so long doing what everyone else wants, I do not know what I want anymore. Maybe we can figure it out together. The words hung in the air, a tentative offer. Ethan met her eyes and something passed between them, an understanding that they were in this together for better or worse. Over the next few days something shifted. Ethan came home earlier from work. They cooked dinner together sometimes, Renee teaching him how to chop vegetables properly, laughing when he nearly cut himself. They watched movies in the home theater, sitting side by side with popcorn between them. They talked about books and music and childhood memories. Renee told him about growing up with parents who worked constantly, about babysitting Tyler and reading him stories before bed. Ethan told her about boarding school, about holidays spent alone because his parents were always traveling, about his grandfather's impossible expectations. I was 7 the first time he told me I would run the company, Ethan said one night. I did not even know what a CEO was. But he sat me down and told me everything depended on me. No pressure, right? That is too much for a child to carry. I got used to it. Or I thought I did. But some days I wonder what my life would have been like if I had been allowed to just be a kid. It is not too late to do the things you love. You said you wanted to be an architect. You could still design buildings. The company takes all my time. You could make time. You are the CEO. You can do whatever you want. Ethan smiled. You make it sound simple. Maybe it is. Maybe we complicate things more than we need to. He reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture so tender it made Renee's heart skip. You are good for me, he said quietly. You make me think about things differently. You are good for me too, she replied. You make me feel less alone. They were sitting close now, closer than they ever had before. Renee could see flecks of gold in Ethan's gray eyes, could feel the warmth of his hand near hers. For a moment she thought he might kiss her. But then he pulled back, clearing his throat. It is late. We should get some rest. Right. Yes. The moment passed, but the feeling lingered. As Renee lay in bed that night, she thought about the way Ethan had looked at her, the gentleness in his touch. She was supposed to keep her distance, protect her heart. But it was getting harder every day. Down the hall, Ethan stared at his ceiling, thinking about Renee's smile, the sound of her laugh. He had married her out of obligation, but somewhere along the way she had become more than just a name on a contract. She was becoming someone he cared about. Someone he did not want to lose. And that terrified him. The following week, Renee started volunteering at a children's hospital. Mrs. Patel had mentioned they needed reading tutors, and Renee jumped at the chance. It felt good to be useful again, to do something that mattered. She spent her afternoons reading to kids in the cancer ward, Kids who looked like Tyler, pale and tired but still smiling. It broke her heart and healed it at the same time. The parents thanked her, told her she was making a difference. She tried to believe them. When she told Ethan about it over dinner, his face lit up. "That is wonderful," he said. "I am proud of you. It is not much. It is everything to those kids." Renee felt warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you for understanding. Of course, you should do what makes you happy." "What makes you happy?" she asked. Ethan thought about it. "Honestly, these dinners. Coming home and knowing you will be here. It is the best part of my day." The confession took her breath away. She reached across the table and took his hand, and this time he held on. "Mine too," she said. They sat there, hands joined, and for the first time the future did not seem so uncertain. The 4th week of marriage brought unexpected warmth. Ethan started leaving little notes for Renee in the morning before he left for work. Simple things, "Have a good day," or "Thank you for dinner last night." She kept them all in a drawer in her room, reading them when she felt lonely. Renee left notes too, slipping them into his briefcase or leaving them on his pillow. "Do not work too hard, and remember to eat lunch." Small gestures that said, "I see you. I'm thinking about you." The staff noticed the change. Mrs. Patel smiled more. Priya hummed while cooking. Even the groundskeeper, old Joe, commented that the house felt lighter. "Love does that," he said to Renee one afternoon as she helped him plant tulips. "It is not love," Renee said quickly. Old Joe raised an eyebrow. "If you say so." But Renee wondered, was it love? Or just two lonely people finding comfort in each other? She did not let herself think about it too much. Thinking led to hope, and hope led to heartbreak. One Saturday Ethan suggested they go out. "Out?" Renee repeated. "Like leave the house? Is that so strange? We have never gone anywhere together." "Exactly. I thought maybe we could have lunch somewhere. Walk around the city. If you want to." Renee's heart leapt. "I would love that." They drove into the city in one of Ethan's less flashy cars, a simple sedan instead of the usual luxury vehicles. He wore jeans and a sweater, and Renee had chosen a green dress that made her feel pretty. They looked like a normal couple and it felt nice. They ate at a small Italian restaurant, tucked away from the main streets. The food was simple but delicious, and they talked and laughed like old friends. Ethan told her stories about disastrous business meetings and eccentric clients. Renee told him about the kids at the hospital, the funny things they said. After lunch they walked through the park. The leaves were starting to change colors, reds and golds and oranges. Ethan bought them coffee from a vendor, and they sat on a bench watching people pass by. "This is nice," Renee said. "Feeling normal." "We are normal," Ethan replied. "Are we? A fake marriage arranged by your grandfather does not exactly scream normal." "Maybe not. But this right now feels real." Renee looked at him. "Does it?" "Yes." He met her eyes. "You feel real." She wanted to kiss him. The thought came suddenly, powerfully. She wanted to lean over and press her lips to his and see if he kissed her back. But she did not. Because she was afraid. Afraid of what it would mean, afraid of getting hurt. Instead, she smiled and took another sip of coffee. That evening, back at the estate, Renee was sorting through some papers in her room when she found an envelope that had been slipped under her door. Her name was written on the front in unfamiliar handwriting. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message. "Ask your husband about the prenuptial agreement. Ask him what happens to you when this is over." There was no signature. Renee's hands shook. She read the note 3 times, her mind racing. What prenuptial agreement? Ethan had never mentioned one. His grandfather had made the arrangements and she had signed papers, but she had been so focused on Tyler's treatment she had not read the fine print. She thought about confronting Ethan but stopped herself. If she asked, she would seem paranoid, untrusting. And maybe the note was just Vincent trying to stir up trouble. It had to be Vincent. Who else would send something like this? But the seed of doubt had been planted. That night at dinner, Renee was quiet. "Everything okay?" Ethan asked. "Yes, just tired." "The hospital visit?" "Yeah. One of the kids I read to had a bad day." It was not a lie exactly. One of the kids had been struggling. But it was not the whole truth either. Ethan seemed to accept it though, and they finished dinner in comfortable silence. Later, Renee could not sleep. She kept thinking about the note, about prenuptial agreements, about what would happen when the 2 years were up. She had been living day to day, not thinking about the future. But the future was coming whether she wanted it to or not. The next morning, she went to the library and found Ethan's laptop sitting on the desk. He had left it there the night before. Her conscience screamed at her not to look, but her fear was louder. She opened it, relieved to find it was not password protected. She found the folder labeled Marriage Contract, and clicked on it. Inside were dozens of documents. Legal papers, financial agreements, clauses and stipulations. Her eyes scanned the text, trying to make sense of the legal language. And then she found it. The prenuptial agreement. It stated clearly, after 2 years of marriage, Renee would receive a one-time payment of $500,000. Tyler's medical expenses would continue to be covered for 5 additional years. But she would have no claim to any of Ethan's assets, no ongoing support, nothing beyond the initial payment. She felt like she had been punched in the stomach. $500,000 sounded like a lot. To her family it was life-changing. But it also meant Ethan had put a price on her, on their marriage. It was a business transaction after all, spelled out in black and white. She had known this intellectually, but seeing it written down made it real in a way that hurt. She closed the laptop and walked out of the library, her vision blurring with tears. She went to her room and sat on the bed, trying to process what she had learned. Part of her understood. Ethan was protecting himself, his fortune. It made sense. But another part of her, the part that had started to hope, to believe that maybe they could build something real, felt crushed. She heard a knock on her door. "Renee?" It was Ethan. "Can I come in?" She wiped her eyes quickly. "Yes." He entered, still in his suit from work, and stopped when he saw her face. "What is wrong?" he asked immediately. "Nothing. You are crying." "I am fine. Renee, please, talk to me." She stood and faced him, trying to keep her voice steady. "Is there a prenuptial agreement?" Ethan's expression shifted, surprise and then understanding. "Yes. But how did you?" "Someone left me a note. Told me to ask you about it." "Who?" "I do not know. But I looked at your laptop." "I'm sorry. I should not have, but I needed to know." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustration clear on his face. "I should have told you." "Yes, you should have. It was my grandfather's idea. He insisted on it, wanted to make sure everything was legal and clear. I signed it before I even met you." "I understand why you did it," Renee said. "But it does not make it hurt less." "Hurt?" Ethan stepped closer. "Why does it hurt?" "Because I thought." She stopped, trying to find the right words. "I thought maybe we were building something. But that agreement makes it clear this is still just a transaction." "It is not just a transaction to me." "Then what is it?" Ethan looked at her, and she saw something raw in his eyes. "I do not know. I do not have words for it. But when I come home and you are here, I feel something I have never felt before. Like I belong somewhere. Like I am not alone." "I feel that too," Renee whispered. "But I am scared." "Of what?" "Of caring too much. Of forgetting that this has an expiration date." Ethan closed the distance between them and took her hands in his. "What if it does not have to? What if we decide together what happens next?" "Your grandfather?" "My grandfather does not get to control my life forever. Or yours." Renee searched his face, looking for certainty, for promises. But all she saw was the same fear she felt, the same hope. "I do not want to get hurt," she said. "Neither do I. But maybe some things are worth the risk." He lifted her hand and pressed a kiss to her knuckles, a gesture so gentle it made her chest ache. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe they could make this work. But trust was a fragile thing, and someone was trying very hard to break it. The anonymous note had shaken Renee more than she wanted to admit. She could not stop thinking about who had sent it and why. Vincent seemed the obvious choice, but she had no proof. For 3 days she kept the note hidden in her drawer, checking it occasionally like it might reveal new secrets. Ethan noticed her distraction. At dinner she barely ate. When he asked questions, her answers were short. He did not push, but his concern was obvious. On the 4th day, Renee received a call from her mother that changed everything. "The transplant," her mother said, her voice breaking. "They found a donor. Tyler's getting his transplant next week." Renee's knees went weak. She sat down hard on the garden bench where she had been reading. "Next week? Are you sure?" "The doctors just confirmed it. They said his body is strong enough, the donor is a perfect match." "Renee, this is it. This is what we have been waiting for." Tears streamed down Renee's face. "Thank God. Thank God. I know you sacrificed so much for this. I know what you gave up. Mama, do not. Tyler is going to be okay. That is all that matters." After the call ended, Renee sat in the garden crying, relief and joy and grief all mixing together. She had done it. She had kept Tyler alive long enough to get to this moment. Everything she had endured, the loneliness, the uncertainty, it was worth it. She heard footsteps on the path and looked up to see Ethan walking toward her. He must have come home early from work. When he saw her tears, he quickened his pace. "What happened?" he asked, kneeling in front of her. "Tyler," she managed. "He's getting his transplant. Next week. They found a donor." Ethan's face broke into a smile, the first real, unguarded smile she had ever seen from him. "That is incredible," he said. "Renee, that is the best news. I cannot believe it is really happening." He pulled her into a hug and she clung to him, sobbing into his shoulder. He held her tightly, one hand stroking her hair, murmuring that everything would be okay. When she finally pulled back, wiping her eyes, Ethan was still smiling. "You should go see him," he said. "Before the surgery. Spend time with your family." "I cannot just leave." "Why not?" "Because we have. I mean, I am supposed to be here. Renee, your brother is getting a life-saving transplant. Nothing is more important than that. Go. Stay as long as you need." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. I will have the driver take you. Or better yet, I will take you myself." The kindness in his offer made her heart swell. "Thank you. But you do not have to do that. You have work." "Work can wait." That afternoon, Ethan drove Renee to the hospital 3 hours away where Tyler was being treated. They did not talk much during the drive, but his hand rested on the console between them, and halfway through Renee reached over and laced her fingers through his. He squeezed gently and they stayed that way for the rest of the trip. The hospital was large and sterile, with bright fluorescent lights that hummed overhead. Renee led Ethan through the maze of hallways to the pediatric oncology wing. Her parents were in the waiting room and when they saw her, her mother burst into tears. "Mama," Renee said, hugging her tightly. Her father embraced her next, his eyes red. "We did not think you could come." "Of course I came." "Where is Tyler?" "In his room. He has been asking for you." Renee turned to Ethan, suddenly shy. "This is Ethan. My husband." Her parents looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and awkwardness. Her father extended his hand and Ethan shook it firmly. "Thank you," her father said, "for everything you have done for our family. We can never repay you." "There is nothing to repay," Ethan said. "Tyler is family now too." The words seemed to surprise everyone, including Ethan himself. But he did not take them back. Renee went to Tyler's room alone first. Her little brother was lying in bed, thin and pale, but his eyes lit up when he saw her. "Ren," he said, his voice weak but happy. "Hey, Ty." She sat on the edge of his bed and took his hand. "I heard you were getting your transplant." "Finally. I was starting to think it would never happen." "I told you it would. You just had to be patient." "I hate being patient." She laughed, tears spilling over. "I know. But it is almost over. Soon you will be back to annoying me full time." "I cannot wait." They talked for an hour about nothing and everything. Tyler told her about the nurses, about the kid in the next room who loved the same video games he did, about the book he was reading. Renee told him about the estate, the garden, the children she read to at the hospital. "Are you happy?" Tyler asked suddenly. The question caught her off guard. "What do you mean?" "With your husband. Are you happy?" Renee thought about Ethan waiting in the hallway, about his hand in hers during the drive, about the way he held her when she cried. "I think I am," she said honestly. "Or at least I'm starting to be." "Good. You deserve to be happy, Ren. You have given up so much for me. I would do it 1,000 times over. You know that." When she finally left Tyler's room, she found Ethan talking quietly with her parents. They looked more relaxed now, and when Ethan saw her, he stood immediately. "How is he?" he asked. "Good." Nervous but hopeful. "Would he mind if I said hello?" Renee was surprised. "You want to meet him?" "If that is okay." She led him back to Tyler's room. Her brother looked curious when they entered. "Tyler, this is Ethan." Ethan walked to the bedside and extended his hand. Tyler shook it, eyeing him with the directness only teenagers could manage. "So you are the guy who married my sister," Tyler said. "I am." "She says you are nice." "I try to be." "You better be. She is the best person I know." Ethan smiled. "I agree." Tyler studied him for a moment longer, then nodded. "Okay. You can stay." Renee laughed, relief flooding through her. The two most important people in her life were meeting and it was going well. That evening, Ethan got them a hotel room near the hospital. Renee protested, saying she could stay with her parents, but Ethan insisted. "They need time with Tyler," he said. "And you need rest." The room was simple but clean. 2 beds, a small bathroom, a view of the parking lot. Renee sat on one of the beds, exhausted. "Thank you," she said. "For driving me here. For meeting my family. For everything." Ethan sat on the other bed, facing her. "You do not have to thank me." "I do." "You did not have to do any of this." "Yes, I did." "Why?" He was quiet for a long moment, his eyes searching hers. "Because I care about you," he said finally. "More than I plan to. More than I should, maybe. But I do." Renee's breath caught. "Ethan. I know this started as an arrangement. I know we both went into it with our eyes open. But somewhere along the way you became important to me. And your family became important because they are important to you." "I care about you too," she whispered. "I did not want to. I tried not to. But I do." They stared at each other across the small space between the beds. The air felt charged, heavy with things unsaid. "What does that mean for us?" Renee asked. "I do not know. But I think we should figure it out together. After Tyler's surgery, after things settle. We should talk about what we really want." "Okay. Okay." Neither of them moved to their separate beds that night. They lay down fully clothed, side by side on one bed, talking until they both fell asleep. It was not romantic. It was just two people finding comfort in each other's presence. But to Renee it felt like the most intimate thing they had ever done. The next morning they returned to the hospital. Tyler's surgery was scheduled for the following week, but Renee wanted to spend every possible moment with him. Ethan stayed for 2 days, working remotely from the hotel and visiting Tyler with her. Her parents warmed to him, seeing how he treated their daughter, how he spoke to their son with genuine interest. On the third day, Ethan had to return to the city for an important board meeting. He did not want to go, but Renee insisted. "I will be fine," she said. "My family is here. Call me if you need anything." "I mean it. I will." He kissed her forehead, a brief press of lips that made her heart race, and then he was gone. Renee stayed at the hospital for the next week, sleeping in Tyler's room on a cot the nurses provided. She read to him, watched movies with him, and held his hand when he was scared. Her parents brought food and other family members visited. It felt like her old life, the one before the marriage. But at night, when the hospital was quiet, she found herself thinking about Ethan. Missing him. Wishing he was there. The night before Tyler's surgery, Renee sat by his bed watching him sleep. He looked so young, so fragile. She prayed harder than she ever had, begging whatever higher power existed to let him survive this, to give him a chance at life. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Thinking of you and Tyler. You are both in my thoughts. You are stronger than you know." She smiled through her tears and texted back. "Thank you. That means everything." The surgery took 12 hours. Renee and her parents sat in the waiting room, not speaking, just holding hands and praying. Every hour a nurse came out with updates. Everything was going well. Tyler was strong. The doctors were pleased. When the surgeon finally emerged, still in his scrubs, Renee stood so fast she felt dizzy. "He did great," the doctor said, smiling. "The transplant was successful. Now we wait and see how his body responds, but all the signs are positive." Renee collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief. Her mother held her, both of them crying, her father's hand on her shoulder. Tyler was going to be okay. She called Ethan immediately, not caring that it was 2 in the morning. "Hello." His voice was groggy. "He made it," she said, her voice breaking. "The surgery was successful. Renee, that is amazing. I am so happy for you. I could not have done this without you." "Yes, you could have. But I am glad I could help." "When are you coming home?" There was a pause. "When are you coming home?" "Soon. A few more days maybe. I want to make sure Tyler is stable. Take all the time you need. I will be here waiting." The promise in his words made her chest tight. Waiting. For her. Like she mattered. Like she was wanted. 3 days later, Tyler was moved out of intensive care. He was weak but smiling, joking with the nurses, asking for burgers. Renee knew he would be okay. Her family would be okay. It was time to go back to the estate. Back to Ethan. Back to figuring out what their marriage really meant. Are you rooting for Ethan and Renee? Do you believe second chances and honest communication can turn an arranged marriage into real love? Subscribe now and tell us in the comments what you think will happen next. Your engagement keeps these stories alive. Renee returned to the estate on a bright afternoon, the sky cloudless and blue. The driver helped her with her bags, but before she could even reach the door, it swung open and Ethan stood there, still in his work clothes, his tie loosened. "You are home," he said, and the relief in his voice was unmistakable. "I am home." He closed the distance between them and pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly. Renee wrapped her arms around him and breathed in the scent of his cologne, feeling something settle inside her. "I missed you," he said quietly. "I missed you too." When they pulled apart, he was smiling. "How is Tyler?" "Recovering well. He is still weak, but the doctors say he is responding beautifully to the transplant. They think he will be home in a month." "That is wonderful news. Your family must be so relieved." "They are. We all are." She paused. "Thank you, Ethan. For everything. For the treatment, for driving me there, for caring." "You do not have to keep thanking me." "I know. But I want you to know I see it. I see what you have done for us." He looked like he wanted to say something more, but Mrs. Patel appeared, beaming. "Welcome home, dear. I made your favorite for dinner. Priya has been cooking all day. You did not have to do that. We wanted to. We missed having you here." That evening they ate together in the breakfast nook, the table laden with food. Priya had made roast chicken, mashed potatoes, fresh bread, and apple pie. It felt like a celebration. "This is too much," Renee said, laughing. "Nonsense," Priya replied. "You have been through a lot. You deserve to be spoiled a little." Ethan raised his glass of water. "To Tyler. And to Renee, the strongest person I know." They clinked glasses and Renee felt warmth spread through her. This place, these people, they felt like home in a way her old life never had. After dinner, Ethan suggested they walk in the garden. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They strolled along the paths, the air cool and pleasant. "I have been thinking," Ethan said, "about what happens next. With us." Renee's heart beat faster. "What have you been thinking?" "That I do not want this to end. The marriage, I mean. I know we agreed to 2 years, but I would like to see where this goes. If you want that too." "I do," she said, the words coming easily. "But I need to know something." "Anything." "That note I told you about, the one about the prenuptial agreement. I think it was Vincent." Ethan's expression darkened. "I think so too. Why would he do that? What does he gain from making me doubt you? Vincent has always been jealous. Of the company, of my position, of anything I have that he does not. I think he sees you as a threat." "A threat how?" "If we are happy, if this marriage becomes real, it means I am settling down. Building a life. That makes it harder for him to undermine me with my grandfather or the board. He wants me isolated, vulnerable. That is awful. Vincent is not a good person. I should have warned you about him from the start." They walked in silence for a moment, the gravel crunching under their feet. "What do we do?" Renee asked. "We do not let him win. We build something real, something he cannot touch." Renee stopped walking and turned to face Ethan. "Is that what you want? Something real?" "Yes." He reached for her hand, his fingers warm against hers. "I want you, Renee. Not because of a contract or an obligation. Just you." Her breath caught. "I want you too." He stepped closer, his free hand coming up to cup her cheek. "Can I kiss you?" She nodded, unable to speak. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind. But she did not want to change her mind. When his lips met hers, soft and tentative, she felt everything shift. The kiss was gentle, a question and an answer all at once. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "I have wanted to do that for weeks," Ethan admitted. "Why did you wait?" "I did not want to pressure you. This marriage was not your choice. I wanted you to choose me." "I am choosing you," Renee said. "Right now. I choose you." They kissed again, deeper this time, and Renee felt the last of her walls crumble. This man, who had started as a stranger, had become the person she trusted most in the world. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. They stopped sleeping in separate rooms. Renee moved into Ethan's suite, and they fell asleep tangled together, talking until late into the night. They went on dates, real dates, to restaurants and museums and parks. They laughed more, touched more, opened up more. Ethan told her about his dreams of designing buildings, and Renee encouraged him to pursue it. He started taking architecture classes online, working on designs in his free time. Renee went back to volunteering at the children's hospital, and Ethan joined her sometimes, reading to the kids alongside her. They attended a charity gala together, and for the first time, Ethan introduced Renee as his wife with pride in his voice. She wore a stunning red gown he had bought for her, and they danced until midnight, lost in each other. "I love you," Ethan said one night, the words tumbling out as they lay in bed. Renee looked at him, her heart full. "I love you too. I did not think I was capable of this. Of loving someone this much." You are capable of so much more than you know. He kissed her and they lost themselves in each other, the outside world fading away. But the outside world was not done with them yet. Vincent had been watching, waiting. And he was about to make his move. The first sign of trouble came in the form of a phone call. Ethan was in his study reviewing contracts when his assistant called. "Mr. Blackwood, there is a reporter here asking questions about your wife." Ethan's blood went cold. "What kind of questions?" "About her background, her family. They seem to think there is a story. Do not tell them anything. I am on my way." He hung up and found Renee in the garden, pruning roses with Mrs. Patel. When she saw his face, her smile faded. "What is wrong?" she asked. "We need to talk." "Inside." They went to the study and Ethan closed the door. "There is a reporter at my office asking about you," he said. "I do not know what they know or what they are looking for, but this feels like Vincent." "Why would Vincent send a reporter?" "To dig up dirt. To make you look bad. To make our marriage look like a sham." Renee sat down, her hands shaking. "What do? We tell the truth. There is nothing to hide. We got married under unusual circumstances, but what we have now is real. What if they twist it? What if they make it sound like I am a gold digger? Then we will deal with it. Together." But the damage had already begun. 2 days later, an article appeared in a major business publication. "Billionaire CEO's sudden marriage, love or leverage?" The article detailed Renee's background, her family's financial struggles, Tyler's illness. It insinuated that she had manipulated Ethan into marriage for money. It quoted anonymous sources close to the family saying the relationship was a sham. Renee read it on her phone, her stomach sinking with every word. By the time she finished, she was shaking. Ethan found her in tears in their bedroom. "I read it," he said, sitting beside her. "It is garbage. None of it is true. But it sounds true. It makes me sound like I used you. Anyone who knows you would never believe that. But the board does not know me. Your business partners do not know me. What if this ruins your reputation?" "I do not care about my reputation. I care about you." But Renee could see the tension in his jaw, the worry in his eyes. This was affecting him whether he admitted it or not. The article spread quickly. Other outlets picked it up, adding their own speculation. Renee stopped going out, afraid of being recognized, afraid of the judgment. The staff tried to shield her, but she could see the pity in their eyes. Vincent called Ethan, his voice dripping with false concern. "I saw the article," he said. "Terrible, just terrible. I wanted to check on you and Renee." "We are fine," Ethan said coldly. "Are you?" "Because the board is asking questions. They are worried about the company's image." "The company's image is fine." "Is it?" "Because investors do not like uncertainty. And a scandal like this creates uncertainty." "There is no scandal." "Not yet. But these things have a way of spiraling. Maybe it would be better if Renee kept a lower profile for a while." Ethan's grip on the phone tightened. "Do not tell me what to do with my wife. I am just trying to help." "No, you are not. And I know you are behind this." "Behind what?" "I had nothing to do with that article." "You expect me to believe that?" "Believe what you want. I am just looking out for the family." Ethan hung up, furious. Renee had been right about Vincent from the start. He was poison and he was trying to destroy them. That evening Ethan's grandfather called. The old man's voice was stern. "We need to talk about this situation." "What situation?" Ethan asked, though he knew exactly what his grandfather meant. "This article. This mess with your wife. The board is concerned." "The board can be concerned all they want. My marriage is not their business. Everything that affects this company is their business. And you are the face of this company. Renee has done nothing wrong." "Maybe not. But perception is reality in business. If people think she married you for money, it reflects poorly on you. I do not care what people think." "You should. Because if the board loses confidence in you, they can vote you out." Ethan felt ice in his veins. "You would not let that happen." "I might not have a choice. You knew the rules when you took this position. Image matters." "So what are you suggesting?" "Distance yourself. At least until this blows over." "You mean leave her?" "I mean be smart." "No. Ethan." I said no. I love her. And I am not going to abandon her because of some tabloid garbage that Vincent probably planted." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Vincent?" his grandfather finally said. "Yes. He is the only one with motive." "That is a serious accusation." "It is the truth. He has been undermining me since the day you chose me over him. And now he is going after Renee to get to me." His grandfather sighed heavily. I will look into it. But in the meantime you need to be careful. The board meeting is next week. Be prepared. After the call, Ethan found Renee curled up on the couch, staring at nothing. What did he say? She asked. He wants me to distance myself from you. Her face crumpled. Maybe you should. What? No. Ethan, I am ruining everything for you. Your reputation, your company. Maybe it would be better if I just left. Do not say that. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. You are not ruining anything. Vincent is doing this, not you. But the damage is done. People believe it. People who do not matter. The people who matter know the truth. Do they? Or are they just being polite? Ethan cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. I know the truth. I know who you are. You are kind, selfless, brave. You gave up everything to save your brother. You have brought light into my life. I will not let anyone take that away. But what if the board votes you out? Then I will start something new. I will design buildings like I always wanted. I will find a new path. But I will not do it without you. Renee's eyes filled with tears. You would really give up everything? For you? Yes. She threw her arms around him, holding him tight. I love you so much. I love you too. And we are going to get through this. But even as he said the words, Ethan knew the fight was just beginning. Vincent was not going to stop. And the board meeting was going to be brutal. He just had to make sure Renee knew she was worth fighting for. The week leading up to the board meeting was the hardest of Renee's life. More articles appeared, each one more vicious than the last. Photos of her volunteering at the hospital were twisted into evidence of publicity stunts. Her family's financial history was dissected in humiliating detail. Strangers on social media called her a gold digger, a manipulator, worse. She stopped reading the news. She stopped checking her phone. But she could not stop the whispers that seemed to follow her everywhere, even in the safety of the estate. Ethan worked around the clock, preparing for the board meeting, gathering evidence against Vincent. He barely slept, surviving on coffee and determination. Renee tried to help, but she felt useless, like a burden he had to protect. 3 days before the meeting, Vincent made his boldest move yet. Renee had gone to the hospital to visit the children, needing to do something normal, something good. When she arrived, a man approached her in the parking lot. He was middle-aged, wearing casual clothes, and he smiled warmly. Renee Blackwood? He asked. Yes. I am sorry to bother you. I am a social worker with the Pediatric Cancer Foundation. I heard about your brother's transplant, and I wanted to talk to you about a program we offer for families in similar situations. Oh, okay. They talked for 20 minutes about support groups and financial assistance programs. The man was kind, professional. He gave her his card and thanked her for her time. She thought nothing of it until 2 days later when photos appeared online. The headline read, Billionaire's wife meets mystery man in hospital parking lot. The photos showed Renee talking to the social worker, smiling, shaking his hand. The article insinuated she was having an affair, that her marriage to Ethan was already falling apart. Renee saw the article on her phone and felt the world tilt. She ran to find Ethan, who was in his study on a conference call. She burst in, and he took one look at her face and ended the call immediately. What is it? He asked. She showed him the article, her hands shaking. Ethan read it, his expression going from concern to furious. This is a setup, he said. Vincent hired someone to approach you to create a photo opportunity. How do you know? Because this is exactly what he would do. Create doubt, make you look unfaithful, give the board a reason to question my judgment. What do? We find the truth. I am calling investigators right now. But the damage was spreading fast. By that evening, Ethan's grandfather called again. The board has seen the photos, he said, his voice grave. They want an explanation. It was a social worker, Ethan said. Renee was discussing a program for families dealing with cancer. That is it. Can you prove that? I am working on it. You better work fast. The meeting is tomorrow. And Ethan, some of the board members are calling for your resignation. After the call, Ethan found Renee packing a suitcase in their bedroom. What are you doing? He asked. I am leaving, she said, tears streaming down her face. I cannot do this anymore. I am destroying you. You are not leaving. Ethan, they want you to resign. Your entire career is at stake because of me. I do not care about my career. But I do. You have worked your whole life for this. I will not let you lose it. He crossed the room and took the suitcase from her hands, setting it on the floor. Listen to me, he said, his voice steady. I would rather lose the company, the money, everything than lose you. Do you understand that? You do not mean that. I do. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me. Before you, I was just going through the motions. Working, existing, but not really living. You changed that. You made me want more. Want better. And I will not let Vincent or the board or anyone take that away. But what if they force you out? Then we start over. Together. Renee looked at him, this man who had become her everything, and felt her resolve crumble. I am so scared, she whispered. So am I. But we are going to face this together. He pulled her into his arms and they stood there holding each other, drawing strength from each other. The next morning, Ethan left early for the board meeting. Renee wanted to go with him, but he insisted she stay home. This could get ugly, he said. I do not want you to have to sit through that. I can handle it. I know you can. But let me handle this. Trust me. She nodded, though every fiber of her being wanted to be by his side. The hours crawled by. Renee paced the house, unable to sit still. Mrs. Patel brought her tea she did not drink. Priya offered food she could not eat. She felt like she was waiting for a verdict on her entire life. Finally her phone rang. It was Ethan. It is over, he said, his voice exhausted. What happened? Come to my office. I will explain everything. The drive into the city felt endless. When she finally arrived at Blackwood Industries, the building gleamed in the afternoon sun, tall and imposing. The receptionist directed her to the top floor, and she rode the elevator with her heart in her throat. Ethan's office was enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He was standing by the window when she entered, his tie loosened, his shoulders tense. Ethan? He turned and she saw tears in his eyes. What happened? She asked, rushing to him. I brought investigators, he said. They found everything. Vincent has been embezzling from the company for 3 years. Millions of dollars hidden in offshore accounts. He hired the photographer to follow you. He planted the stories. He orchestrated all of it. Oh my God. I presented the evidence to the board. They were shocked. Some of them did not want to believe it, but the proof was undeniable. What did they do? They voted Vincent out. He is facing criminal charges. And they apologized to me. To us. Renee felt her knees go weak. It is really over? Yes. My grandfather was there. He looked me in the eye and said he was wrong about you. That he could see how much we love each other. He said that. He did. And he asked if you would forgive him. Renee did not know what to say. Relief and anger and gratitude all swirled together. What did you tell him? She asked. I said I would ask you. She thought about the old man who had orchestrated this entire marriage, who had put them both through so much pain. But she also thought about Tyler, healthy and recovering because of the deal that man had made. I forgive him, she said quietly. Not because he deserves it, but because I do not want to carry that anger anymore. Ethan pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. You are incredible, he whispered. We did it, she said. We actually did it. We did. They stood there in his office, holding each other, the city sprawling below them. The fight was over. The truth had won. And they were finally truly free. The fallout from Vincent's exposure was swift and brutal. Within days, the story broke in every major news outlet. Blackwood heir arrested for embezzlement and fraud. The same media that had attacked Renee now scrambled to praise her, calling her a victim of a vicious smear campaign. She ignored it all. What mattered was that the truth was out. Vincent had been using his position in the company to siphon money for years, funding a lifestyle even his family salary could not support. The expensive cars, the luxury vacations, the penthouse apartment, all paid for with stolen funds. The investigators found everything. Fake invoices, shell companies, forged documents. Vincent had been so confident in his cleverness that he had gotten sloppy. When confronted with the evidence, he had tried to blame others, but the paper trail led directly back to him. Ethan's grandfather, for all his faults, had been genuinely shocked. He called Ethan and Renee to his home, a sprawling mansion on the edge of the city. They drove there together, Renee's hand clasped tightly in Ethan's. The old man was waiting for them in his study, looking smaller than Renee remembered. Age and shock had dimmed some of his commanding presence. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chairs across from his desk. They sat, and for a long moment no one spoke. I owe you both an apology, he finally said, his voice rough. I thought I was protecting this family, protecting the company. But I was blind. Blind to Vincent's true nature. Blind to what I was putting you through. You were, Ethan said bluntly. I arranged your marriage because I thought you needed stability. I thought any wife would do as long as she fit the right criteria. I was wrong. He looked at Renee and she saw genuine remorse in his eyes. I treated you like a transaction, he said. Like you were just a piece in a game. I'm sorry for that. Renee took a breath. You hurt me. Both of us. But I understand why you did it. You were afraid of losing control, afraid of what would happen to your legacy. That does not excuse it. No, it does not. But I have learned that holding on to anger does not help anyone. So I forgive you. Not for you but for me. The old man's eyes glistened. You are a better person than I deserve. Yes, she is, Ethan said, squeezing Renee's hand. His grandfather leaned back in his chair. What will you do now? With the company, with your lives? We are going to live on our own terms, Ethan said. I will keep running Blackwood Industries, but I am also going to pursue architecture. Design buildings. Do the work I have always wanted to do. And you? He asked Renee. I'm going to keep volunteering. Maybe go back to school, get my teaching degree. Tyler will need help catching up when he is healthy enough to go back to school. I want to be there for him and for other kids like him. The old man nodded slowly. I think that is good. Both of you deserve to be happy. Before they left, he called Ethan aside. Renee waited in the hallway, studying the family portraits on the walls. Generations of Blackwoods staring down at her with serious expressions. When Ethan emerged, he looked lighter somehow. What did he say? Renee asked. He is changing his will. Making sure the company stays with me no matter what. And he is setting up a foundation in Tyler's name to help other families dealing with childhood cancer. Renee's eyes widened. Really? Really? He said it is the least he can do. On the drive home, Renee felt something she had not felt in months. Peace. The weight that had been pressing down on her was finally lifting. I am proud of you, Ethan said, glancing at her. For what? For forgiving him. That took strength. I learned from you. You could have been angry at me for looking at the prenuptial agreement without asking. But you understood why I did it. We both made mistakes. But we figured it out. Yes, we did. That weekend they visited Tyler. He was being discharged from the hospital, finally well enough to go home. Renee's parents had tears in their eyes as they packed up his room, gathering the cards and drawings and stuffed animals that had accumulated over his long stay. Tyler looked like a different kid. Still thin, but with color in his cheeks and light in his eyes. When he saw Renee and Ethan, he grinned. You guys came, he said. Of course we came, Renee replied, hugging him carefully. We would not miss this. Ethan shook Tyler's hand. How are you feeling? Like I can actually breathe for the first time in forever. The doctors say I can go back to school in a month. That is great, Ty. And guess what? I'm going to play basketball again. Maybe not competitively, but just for fun. I did not think I would ever be able to do that. Renee felt tears prick her eyes. This was what she had fought for. This moment. They drove Tyler and her parents home, helping carry boxes and bags into the small house where Renee had grown up. It looked different to her now, smaller but filled with more love than all the square footage of the estate. Her mother made lunch, sandwiches and chips and lemonade. They sat around the kitchen table, laughing and talking. Ethan fit in seamlessly, asking her father about his work, joking with Tyler about video games. You are good for her, Renee's mother said quietly to Ethan when they were washing dishes together. She is good for me, he replied. I can see that. When she first told us about the marriage, I was so worried. But looking at you two now, I can see it is real. It is. I did not expect it, but it is. Love is like that sometimes. It shows up when you least expect it. That night, back at the estate, Renee and Ethan sat in the garden under the stars. The air was cool and Ethan had draped his jacket over her shoulders. I have been thinking, Renee said, about the prenuptial agreement. Ethan stiffened slightly. What about it? I want you to know I do not care about the money. I never did. If you want to change the agreement or tear it up or whatever, I am okay with that. Renee. I mean it. I'm not here for your money. I am here for you. He took her hand, bringing it to his lips. I know that. I have always known that. But I am going to change the agreement anyway. Not because I have to, but because I want to. You are my wife, my partner. Everything I have is yours. You do not have to do that. I want to. Because I trust you. And because I want you to know that this is forever, if you will have me. Renee's heart swelled. Forever sounds perfect. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Renee gasped. I know we are already married, Ethan said, opening the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. But I want to do this right. Renee, will you marry me? Again? For real this time? She laughed through her tears. Yes. Yes, of course. He slipped the ring onto her finger and they kissed under the stars, sealing a promise that was theirs alone. 3 months later, Renee stood in front of a mirror, adjusting the simple white dress she had chosen. It was nothing like the elaborate gown she had worn for the first wedding. This dress was soft, flowing, with delicate lace at the sleeves. Felt like her. You look beautiful, her mother said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Do not cry, Mama. You will make me cry. I cannot help it. My baby girl is getting married. Again. For real this time. Renee smiled at her reflection. The first wedding had been a performance, a contract signed in expensive fabric. This one was a choice. A celebration. They had decided on a small ceremony in the garden of the estate. Just family and close friends. No reporters, no spectacle. Just love. Tyler knocked on the door, looking sharp in his suit. He had gained weight, his face full again, his eyes bright. He looked healthy. He looked alive. You ready, sis? He asked. Almost. Give me a minute. When she was alone, Renee took a deep breath. 6 months ago, she had been terrified, walking down an aisle toward a stranger, sacrificing herself for her brother. Now she was walking toward a man she loved with her whole heart. A man who had proven again and again that he was worth believing in. She heard the music start, a gentle acoustic guitar. It was time. Tyler offered his arm. Let me walk you down the aisle this time. I never got to before. I would love that. They stepped out into the garden and Renee's breath caught. White chairs were arranged in neat rows, filled with people who actually cared about them. Mrs. Patel and Priya were crying already. Old Joe was grinning. Her parents sat in the front row holding hands. And there at the end of the aisle stood Ethan. He wore a dark blue suit and when he saw her, his whole face lit up. He was not holding back tears. He let them fall freely and it made Renee love him even more. Tyler walked her down the path, past the roses they had planted together, past the fountain where they had shared their first real conversation. When they reached Ethan, Tyler shook his hand. Take care of her, Tyler said. Always, Ethan promised. Tyler stepped back and Renee took Ethan's hands. The officiant, a kind woman who had known Ethan since he was a child, smiled at them. We are gathered here today not to bind two people together, but to celebrate a bond that already exists. Ethan and Renee have chosen each other not once but twice. First out of duty, then out of love. Today they renew their commitment in front of those who love them most. Ethan spoke first, his voice steady but emotional. Renee, when I married you the first time, I thought I was doing it for my grandfather, for the company, for duty. But from the moment I lifted your veil and saw your eyes, something shifted. You were kind when you had every reason to be bitter. You were strong when you could have been broken. You saw me not as a billionaire or a CEO but as a person. You made me want to be better. You made me believe in love. I promise to spend the rest of my life honoring the sacrifice you made, the trust you gave me, and the love you have shown me. I choose you today and every day. Renee was crying now but she smiled through the tears. Ethan, I was so scared when I agreed to marry you. I thought I was giving up my life, my freedom, everything. But you never took those things from me. Instead, you gave me space to breathe, to heal, to be myself. You fought for me when others tried to tear me down. You believed in me when I struggled to believe in myself. You saved my brother's life, but more than that, you gave me a reason to hope again. I love you not because of what you have given me but because of who you are. I choose you today and every day. They exchanged rings, simple bands that they had picked out together. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife again, Ethan pulled Renee close and kissed her, and everyone cheered. The reception was held on the lawn, with tables covered in white linens and flowers everywhere. They ate and danced and laughed. Tyler gave a speech that made everyone cry and laugh at the same time. My sister is the bravest person I know, he said. She gave up everything for me. And Ethan, you better treat her right or you will have to answer to me. Ethan raised his glass. I promise. As the sun set, Ethan and Renee snuck away from the party, walking to their favorite spot in the garden. They sat on a bench watching the sky turn orange and pink. This is perfect, Renee said, leaning against him. You are perfect. I am far from perfect. You are perfect for me. That is all that matters. She looked up at him. What do you think the future holds for us? I do not know. But whatever it is, we will face it together. Together? She echoed. I was thinking, Ethan said. Tyler mentioned wanting to study engineering. What if we set up a scholarship fund? Help other kids like him pursue their dreams after beating cancer. That is a wonderful idea. And you should go back to school. Get your teaching degree. I will support you however you need. What about you? Your architecture? I have already started. I am designing a community center for the neighborhood where you grew up. A place for kids to learn, to play, to be safe. Renee felt her heart overflow. You are amazing. We are amazing. Together. They sat in the garden as the stars came out, talking about their dreams, their plans, their future. The marriage that had started as a transaction had become the greatest love story Renee had ever known. 6 months later, Tyler was back in school, thriving. He had even made the junior varsity basketball team. Renee was enrolled in college, working toward her teaching degree. Ethan had launched his architecture firm, and his designs were already gaining attention. They had moved out of the estate into a smaller house closer to the city. It was still beautiful, but it felt more like them. More like a home. One evening, Renee found a letter on the kitchen table. It was from Ethan's grandfather, written in shaky handwriting. Dear Renee and Ethan, I do not have much time left. The doctors say my heart is failing. But I wanted you to know that watching you build a life together has been the greatest gift of my final years. I was wrong about so many things. But I was right about one thing: you belong together. Thank you for showing this old fool what love really looks like. With gratitude and respect. Ethan read the letter over her shoulder, his arms around her waist. He passed away last night, he said quietly. Peacefully in his sleep. Renee turned in his arms. I am sorry. Me too. But I am also grateful. He changed at the end. He tried to make things right. That is all anyone can do. They held each other, mourning and celebrating at the same time. A year after the second wedding, Renee stood in the bathroom of their house, staring at a positive pregnancy test. Her hands shook as she walked into the living room where Ethan was sketching a building design. Ethan? He looked up. What is wrong? Nothing is wrong. Everything is right. She held up the test. We are going to have a baby. For a moment he just stared. Then he jumped up, crossing the room in 2 strides, and swept her into his arms. Are you serious? Yes, I am serious. He laughed, spinning her around, both of them crying and laughing at the same time. We are going to be parents, he said, wonder in his voice. We are. Are you ready? With you? I am ready for anything. They stood there in their living room, holding each other, thinking about the future. A future neither of them had imagined when they first stood at that altar. A future built on love, trust, and the choice to keep choosing each other every single day. Kindness had led them here. Hope had sustained them. And love had won. It always did.